Kia ora koutou. I think a 4-year term could be justified, but only if it's accompanied by genuinely greater constraints on the power of the executive and a parliamentary majority, which New Zealand has relatively few of those constraints by international standards. In my view, the bill does not deliver this at the moment. Opposition control of select committees is unlikely to impose significant constraints on the power of a government with a parliamentary majority, since they can just use that majority to reverse any committee recommendations on legislation that the government doesn't like at a later stage in the parliamentary process. And I'm concerned that, as others have suggested, opposition control of select committees might actually encourage governments to use urgency to bypass select committees more often, particularly if it ends up with a lot of amendments from the opposition, from opposition controlled select committees to legislation that governments don't like. That might actually paradoxically reduce parliamentary scrutiny of legislation by encouraging the bypassing of select committees more, which I think would be a major loss to our parliamentary process, because select committees do such important work and are such an important opportunity for the public to give input and to improve the quality of legislation, pick up issues with them, and ensure a thorough lawmaking process. I also think that having the term of Parliament vary depending on the choice of the government after each election, related to the proportionality of select committees, is unsatisfactory. I think that the public should know when it votes how long it's electing a Parliament and government for. And I think the choice in the referendum would be difficult to explain to people with this complexity in the model. People, quite understandably, might think that they're voting on whether we have a 3-year term or a 4-year term, but they'd actually be voting on a choice between a 3-year term and the term of Parliament varying between 3 or 4 years, depending on the choice of the government regarding opposition control of select committees, which would not be something that would be particularly easy to explain to the public. I think it would be best to do further work on this and have a wider review of how government accountability could be improved before a referendum on increasing a parliamentary term is held. This should ideally include greater public engagement. There could be things like a citizens' assembly or just greater consultation with the public. And that would be likely to increase public trust in the change, given that there hasn't been a lot of consultation, or a particularly thorough process here. And increasing the term Parliament could be part of a package of measures that would also increase government accountability and constraints on its power. I think that this would increase public buy-in and improve the prospects of success for the change in a referendum. So I think it would be good to have a wider look of what is actually the best way to increase government accountability in order to compensate for a 3-year term, because I don't think the current mechanism in there around opposition control of select committees is really the right one and would actually deliver genuinely greater constraints and accountability.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. Any questions? Right, Miss Celia Wade-Brown.
Kia ora, Daniel. Thank you for making your submission and giving your time today. I was interested in looking at, if we chose not to proceed with this bill, how best would you suggest we kick off that process of constitutional reform? Given we've got the Mate Ki Mai report already, we've got a lot of learned people who've made suggestions, and one always has somewhat of a partisan government. So how do we actually kick off the process?
Well, I think there are mechanisms like a citizens' assembly or things like that that could be used in order to have greater public engagement with these issues. And I think if you have a process that enables more public engagement rather than just having a bill that's sort of introduced and then people able to come along to select committee submissions, which not that many people do, of course, then you're likely to get greater public buy-in for changes and greater public confidence in the process.
All right. Hey, thank you. Very appreciative of your time and your submission.
Thank you.
Right, we've got Raymond.
So, what do you think? Did you catch much from that one?
Yeah, I'm still not sure what I think on the whole thing.
It just feels like they're kind of saying what you kind of agree, or you're learning from their opinions, rather than you're not slapped with your own opinion and you're willing to learn more from other people's opinions and draw on to a better conclusion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. It's there's arguments on both sides, and I just want to see due process respected. Yeah.